Well, good morning, and thanks to everyone that could be with us this morning virtually for the Reading and Diagnostic Grant Steering Committee meeting, and welcome to all who are watching virtually. I am Christy Biggerstaff, Director of Early Literacy in the Office of Teaching and Learning here at the Kentucky Department of Education. And with me from the Kentucky Department of Education's Office of Teaching and Learning is Chief Academic Officer Mickey Marinelli, as well as Dr. Terry Scott from the Reading Research Center. Before we begin, I do have a few announcements on conducting virtual meetings. The meeting must comply with the requirements of the Open Meetings Act. Accordingly, members of the Grant Steering Committee must ensure their video is streaming and they can be seen throughout the duration of the meeting. Members, please mute your microphone when not talking. However, all discussions must be broadcast to the public. Therefore, be sure your microphone is not on mute when you speak. Every time you speak during the meeting, please unmute your mic, state your name, and take a short pause, and this will give the software time to recognize you. And for any items that require a vote, a roll call must be necessary to record the vote of each committee member, which at the time, the member should state his or her name, pause, and then state, I vote yes or I vote no. A roll call will also be necessary at both the start of the meeting to document attendance and again, once a motion has been approved to adjourn the meeting. And lastly, please silence or turn off any other electronic devices that may cause disruption to your sound feed. At this time, we're going to have a roll call to document the attendance of those present at today's meeting. Names will be announced according to how they're listed, and when I call your name, I will also include the role you have been assigned in the provided statute. When your name and role have been called, please state your name for the record and announce present. To begin, I'm serving as the Commissioner of Education's designee, and I will announce for the record that I, Christy Biggerstaff, am present. Now, I do not think, just looking at who we have present currently, that we will have a quorum, but I'll go ahead and do the roll call just to make sure. Amy Ritter, primary program teacher.
Amy Ritter, but it's actually Adkins.
Adkins.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you. Dominique Pleasant Moore, primary program teacher. Amy Hatzel, primary program teacher. Janice Almasi, post-secondary faculty. Sam Sams, elementary school principal.
Sam Sams, present.
Thank you. Jessica Sparrow, library media specialist. Molly Boyd, elementary school parent.
Molly Boyd, present.
Thank you. Paula Pleasant, elementary special education teacher. Mary Bale, private sector member. Dawn Sexton, elementary reading intervention. And Amy Hatzel, teacher with experience assisting students deaf or blind.
Dawn Sexton is present. I couldn't get my microphone to unmute. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you so much. We do not have a quorum, so we're not going to go through the approval of the agenda, but we do want to share. We have a couple of important items that we do want to share with the group today. So I will start off by introducing our guest today. Sorry, I'm going to try to stop sharing my screen so they can share their screen. So that item on the agenda that I'm really looking forward to is we are welcoming the Executive Director, Dr. Terry Scott of the Reading Research Center, to present their Read to Achieve evaluation report. So, Dr. Scott, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, this is Terry Scott. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to present to you what we've been doing with the Kentucky Reading Research Center, and specifically with regard to our evaluation of the Read to Achieve program. So we were funded starting in July of 2024. We work very closely in collaborative partnership with KDE and Mickey Ray Marinelli's office. We have established quite a few people that are working along in the center with us. We probably have another 20 people or so that are doing different things, most of it related to research. And we have a national advisory panel that are quite esteemed. We have Dr. Sharon Vaughn from the University of Texas, Dr. Deborah Reed from the University of Tennessee, Dr. Jade Wexler from the University of Maryland, Dr. David Page from Northern Illinois University, Dr. Michael Coyne from University of Connecticut, and Dr. Holly Lane from the University of Florida. And we're very fortunate to be able to have all of them and all the other experts that we have to help us do this work. So our main charge has been to develop a clearinghouse, not of the nature of like the What Works clearinghouse, which is purely what does the research say, but we're looking at how do we summarize the research so that we know we're looking at the science of reading, and then how do we interpret that in a way that can fit our different constituencies. Teachers, parents, administrators, interventionists, etc. Secondly, we are doing research. Part of our research is the evaluation of RTA, which is by statute. But some of the results we pulled from that and some of the other things we're doing have led us to some other questions, and I will take some time to talk a little bit about that as we go through the report. We're looking at schools across the state, and we're tracking student progress and looking at what teachers and teams are doing in those schools. So we know that the Read to Achieve program has been evaluated in the past, and so we started out trying to mimic what had been done in the past using a survey. And we used the past survey as a starting point, and we made some revisions. And because we got started in this whole process in July, we didn't have a completed survey ready to go until the spring, but that was distributed to all 149 schools. On the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about, or on a coming slide, the response rate. But we also wanted to look at some of these schools. So we have included in this evaluation direct observations of teachers and interviews with teachers and principals and school teams, and that will also make up part of this evaluation. So we basically have 5 categories of questions, and we have a lot of answers underneath each of these. I'm going to just summarize, kind of hit the high points. But one, we want to talk about who are these schools and who are the people that are responding. What kinds of curricula and HQIRs are schools in the RTA program using? What are their perceptions regarding the benefits and possible needs regarding the RTA program? And we then looked also at the school literacy teams and the observations, and we wanted to know, how do all these things relate to the school level reading achievement scores? Finally, we did an analysis of a clustered group that I'll describe in a few minutes that allowed us to make some, or ask, I guess, some bigger questions that we'll be looking into this year. So in terms of who responded, we had a total of 2,248 individuals from 148 of the 149 schools. So an average of about 10 people per school responded to the survey. We had a very low rate of paraprofessionals and those identifying as others, so they weren't included in many of the analyses we did. But most of the people we had were K-3 teachers, then interventionists, and administrators made up the rest of that. On the bottom left there, you can see there were 4 schools where no interventionists responded, 8 where no K-3 teachers responded, and 20 where no administrators responded. But by and large, we did get representation of those 3 groups across the large array of schools that we started with. We asked them about their training. This is interventionist specific. What kind of training have you received related to your job as a reading interventionist? And letters training was, of course, far and away the largest of those, with 55% of our schools having at least one person trained in letters. They did report broadly that they felt like letters was aligned well with their school's literacy curriculum. Only 8% reported that they did not believe that letters aligned well with their school's literacy curriculum. And on the next slide, oops, I'm actually going on to a different point here, but we will look at the actual curricula and the HQRs that they reported using. And so some of that will make sense. We asked respondents to talk about things that they thought got in the way or inhibited their ability to provide effective literacy instruction. Time was the first of those, followed by student behavior, administrative report, availability of needed instructional materials, and lack of professional learning for implementation. Although other than time and student behavior, the others seem to be fairly low across the board. So it was really those top two that we looked at. We asked people what they thought they needed, and the majority of respondents said they needed nothing. The largest identified need was additional funding, followed by professional development, instructional materials, leadership and policy, and I don't recall what the one random other thing was. So we asked them, what curricula do you use? And you can see here the list of these are the top 5 things that schools are using out there. On the right are how long have you had these available in your school? So you can see that that really ranges from a whole lot of schools starting their first year with a new HQIR, and below are the HQIRs. Again, the UFly Foundations is the far and away the most frequently used. And again, we have Dr. Holly Lane, the author of UFly, on our advisory board. We started then looking at the associations between the survey and the actual performance that we saw in the schools. There aren't any super overwhelming kinds of things to see here, but when we talked to the teams, we surveyed the school literacy teams, and then we actually interviewed them also. And below here you see the data, but I'm just going to show it to you graphically because it's easier to see. We found there to be significant correlations between the team's perceived literacy capacity and reading proficiency. And so literacy capacity came out in, they said they observed and provided feedback on what was going on in the schools. They shared the leadership for those things, and they monitored their own progress. Then we had the relationship between the perceived school capacity and reading proficiency. And there it was, people in the school reported that they got timely data from their school and from the district, and that the new learning was shared across everyone. So I don't think, again, that these are super surprising things, but they do take us back to what the literature says about systems work and how we build systems in schools to get achievement. We then took out of those 149 schools a sample. Part of the reason the sample is low is because of the way we created the criteria, but another reason it's low is because we only had a month to do this, because we got started on this in March. It was late in the year before we got around to being able to get started on this. So there are 4 clusters. A set of schools within those 149 where growth was above 7% in the last 2 years, a group where it was stable but high, a group that was declining, and a group where the growth was very low, so stable low. And then what we did is we asked questions and did observations within those schools. And some of these things aren't surprising, but schools that are low and decreasing in reading achievement tended to have more teacher turnover, and schools that are low and decreasing tended to have less experienced teachers. Again, something that's not surprising because we've seen this in the literature in a whole bunch of domains over a long period of time. Looking at the tiered interventions. So we use what we call the Avery School Assessment, or the ASA, which we developed about 10, 15 years ago, and we validated this instrument. We used only the literacy portion of the instrument. Now, the N is way too low for us to talk about this statistically, so this is purely descriptive, but it is something we've been finding in our other research, which is the schools that are doing well have tier 1 in place at a higher level than the schools that aren't doing as well. However, at tier 3, the schools that aren't doing as well do tend to have tier 3 really well in place, which kind of makes sense if you think about not having prevention in place kind of forces you to have your responses in place to a degree. And again, I don't want to overstate this because this is based on a very small number of schools. But again, it does mirror what we've been seeing in some of our other research. This is really teacher level behaviors. And again, I want to caution that this is based on not enough observations at this point to talk about this statistically. But this again is very consistent with what we found in our previous research, which is that the high achieving and increasing achievement schools engage their kids more during instruction. OTR stands for opportunities to respond, which is the number of times teachers give the kids chances to say and do. So we've been finding this for 15 or more years now, that the more often teachers give kids opportunities to be engaged inside the curriculum, both the better outcomes we get academically and the lower our disruption rates are with behavior. Low and decreasing schools tend to have about the same as variable positive feedback to students, but tend to have more negative feedback for students. And then I think one of the biggest ones that we've been seeing, and we see it again here, is how do teachers use their time? And so we code when we're sitting in the classroom watching teachers, we code the difference between whether they're actually teaching, they're doing something, the kids are doing something, they're engaged, or they're just standing and watching the kids. So we're only coding the part of this that we call instruction, which typically lasts for 15 minutes. And again, very consistent with what we found in the past is that in schools where we're seeing lower achievement, we see less of the time used for instruction and more of it used for monitoring. So our next steps are to dive deeper into this. So we will repeat the survey again this year. And when we repeat it, we're going to use some of the items that seemed interesting where we got some results, and we're going to probably create a deeper dive into some of those items to explore it a little more deeply. We have identified 99 schools in the state, including a large number of RTA, and again clustered them by those 4 groups, and we're going to be doing 4 observations of teachers in each of those schools. So we'll have a much more robust set of data. And again, this isn't just for the RTA schools, but they are a component of this. And then finally, we've been using KDE funds the University of Kentucky with something called Immersion, which is a mixed reality, virtual reality that allows student teachers, pre-service teachers to practice teaching. We've been able to create scripts for those virtual reality sessions where students misbehave. And what we're doing is monitoring the degree to which teachers' instruction is occurring and their stress levels. The first time an F-bomb is dropped in one of those sessions, the student teacher's emotions go through the roof. We track this on a little wristband, and all instruction stops. So one of the things we're going to be studying more this year is it possible to do a small tutorial with these inexperienced teachers on how to handle misbehavior that would mediate some of these things? In all of these, they're doing literacy lessons. So what we want to know is there a way that we can provide feedback to institutes of higher ed that are training teachers that would give them some pointers for things that need to be in their curriculum in order to help these teachers be prepared for the inevitable misbehaviors they're going to see. So thank you for the opportunity to present this with you. I'm going to make the actual set of slides available. I'm sending them to Christy, and if you have any questions, you can certainly reach out to me. Please do check out our website. It is kyreadingresearch.org. And we'd be happy again to engage with anybody who has any questions about anything we're doing. And I'm going to stop my share here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Scott. I would open it up to any of our members that may have any questions you would like to ask Dr. Scott about the Reading Research Center or the RTA presentation. I don't think they have any right now, but Dr. Scott, if any come through after I share that presentation, I will definitely reach out to you. Thank you so much for being here and all of the work that you all are doing to help us advance literacy in the state. Appreciate you.
Thank you all.
I am actually on the agenda next to share with you some Read to Succeed updates. So I'm going to share my screen again. Very excited to give you some information and update you. The last time we met, we had just been in our partnership schools for a few months. So now we have a year behind us and another cohort of letters. So I want to share some update and information around our efforts in early literacy. So as you can see on the screen, that is kind of our Read to Succeed umbrella, and it has all of our professional learning. On the left-hand side is the professional learning portion where we are offering the Kentucky Reading Academies. As I said, we started another cohort 4, recently. We have over 7,000 participants in our letters initiatives, and that is very exciting. I will say, even though that is exciting, I do want more. I do want more educators and administrators to participate in that. Very happy to say that we are going to be offering another cohort, cohort 5 and cohort 6 in the next couple of years. To our educators and administrators in our state. We also have the Kentucky Early Literacy Leadership Network, and I have some more slides on all of these that will dive deeper. And then we have our, on the right-hand side of the screen, we have our literacy coaching model that falls under our umbrella, regional district school support that we give from our state regional literacy directors, and then our resources that you could visit any of those. And when I share this PowerPoint slide with you, all of those are linked, and you could click on any of those links to take you directly to the web page that talks about those. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the specifics around some of the items under the umbrella. So as I said earlier, we are excited about having over 7,000 participants in letters. Across all of those, teachers, when they join Letters for Educators, they take a pre-assessment. And that pre-assessment score, as you can see on your screen, the average is usually 65%. As this is relatively new information in the state of Kentucky, that average is expected. But what's really exciting is after they go through the 2-year course of letters, that post-test average jumps up to 95%. So what that is essentially saying is that teachers who take the letters course indeed increase their knowledge in the science of reading and literacy. We had a third-party evaluator to come in and look at our 2 main initiatives, which is the professional learning and also our coaching model, which I'll talk about here in just a minute. And ICF surveyed participants that took letters. And in that survey, the participants showed increased confidence in literacy knowledge after taking the course. increased applications of strategies across all tiers of instruction, and then increased motivation to implement district adopted high quality instructional resource into classroom practice. So all of that is exciting. Probably the most exciting piece, though, from the ICF review of our letters and coaching initiatives was that if you have a student, specifically in fifth grade, fourth and fifth grades, that had a teacher that was trained in letters 2 years in a row. So they had a letters trained teacher, and then the next year they had a letters trained teacher. That student significantly outperformed their peers who did not have a letters trained teacher. So we know the training is effective. We know that it moves student scores. Also noted that it was significant for special education students in grade 4 and 5. If they had 2 consecutive years of a letters trained teacher, they outperformed their peers significantly. So that is exciting. And I know that as we train more educators in the state of Kentucky, we will have more students to be impacted. Our literacy coaching model is entering its second year. So we had teachers placed in partnership schools last year. They are identified as greatest needs. So they have a high percentage of third grade novice in reading, or a very low percentage and distinguished in third grade reading. And we have partnered those school districts in specific schools with the literacy coach. So they spent all year last year in that school. They started their second year. Those are all going really, really well. So we had 23 partnership schools last year. Over 50 districts were getting some technical assistance and support from our regional directors on our team. This year, we hired more literacy coaches, and we have 31 partnership schools total. We are training some more literacy coaches as we speak, and intend to hire more beginning in the spring. Our moonshot goal is to have around 80 literacy coaches statewide. And that is because we have a lot of schools in Kentucky that need our support and help, and I'm happy to do that. We also have what's called a regional principal support coach. We have 8 of those, and those 8 regional principal coaches really help us to mentor and coach principals throughout Kentucky to help them implement their resource, to help implement structures and systems within their schools that would prove to be successful for their literacy efforts. So our coaches really work to have coaching cycles directly with teachers and improve their practice and implementation of their HQIR. And as I said, that is going really well. On the screen, this is just a snapshot of what our coaches did last year. They started with classroom observations, and you can see the totals there on the right-hand part of the screen. Had over 2,400 classroom observations that happened with our coaches. They had feedback conversations, executed actual coaching cycles within those schools. Our coaches work with one school only, and they work within that school Monday through Thursday. And then on Fridays, that is to help them kind of document and continue professional learning and all of those things. But they are in those schools on the ground, and many of our schools count our coaches as a part of their team. They also lead PLCs and do walkthroughs within that school. Just a couple of data points for you in terms of the coaching. Over the course, you can see the dark blue on the screen is yes, and the light blue is mostly. And of course, somewhat is the gray, and not at all is the yellow. So over the course of the first year of our coaches being placed, 60% of the lessons at the end of the year demonstrated upper bucket integrity, meaning that they were being implemented at a high rate of integrity. So you can see where they started out at the beginning of the year and how that mostly and yes, definitely increased by the end of the year with our coaching and supports. And again, another piece of data from coaching says over 85% of observed lessons had grade appropriate text at the center of the lesson. And that was up from only 57% when we started with our coaching schools, our partnership schools at the beginning of September. So they are moving the needle for our schools that they are partnering with. And we hope to continue those efforts by hiring more literacy coaches and helping more schools. And then I'm going to kind of switch focus from our literacy coaching model to talk about another initiative. Again, that is all free for Kentucky schools. The coaches do not cost for schools. Letters, the participation in letters, that is free for educators and administrators of public schools. Another free resource that we have is the Kentucky Early Literacy Leadership Network. We call it Kentucky Ellen, and that is mainly focused on district and school administrators and helping them to support professional learning, build out systems and structures, really trying to give them professional learning as leaders to help impact their broader school district and schools. So we've had a total of 52 district leadership teams to participate in that effort. 33 districts in year one and 19 additional districts in year two. We're trying to think of what our third and final year would look like for Kentucky Ellen, and really trying to provide more deep and personal technical assistance for the districts that are participating in that. But that has been a wonderful effort. I have truly, truly enjoyed sitting across the table from district and school administrators and talking to them about how they can put in place supports for their school leaders and their educators to really help bolster their literacy implementation. And that has gone really well. One of my favorite things about Kentucky Ellen is watching other districts interact with each other and learn from each other. We all have so many things in districts that we are doing and that we've learned about. So just seeing that partnership build within the Kentucky Ellen network has been a true joy as well. Some data to share with you around Kentucky Ellen. The blue is after participating and the yellow is before. So we surveyed Kentucky Ellen members before and after going through year one. So you can see the percentage shift at that number 5 of participants who selected that they felt more confident in literacy best practices and they could support K through 5 educators better after Kentucky Ellen. So that went up over 40 percentage points after Kentucky Ellen versus before. And then we also ask, do you have sufficient knowledge and skills to support implementation of their resource, their high quality instructional resource? So that went up after Kentucky Ellen almost 50 percentage points. So we felt like those efforts were valuable for our participants. And also, do they have sufficient knowledge and skills about lesson and unit internalization to help support teachers? And that truly, for those of you who do not understand what lesson and unit internalization may be, but once you have a high quality instructional resource, teachers really need to review those lessons. They don't plan lessons like they used to 10 or 15 years ago. Those lessons have been planned in a high quality instructional resource. So really internalizing and adding what I call teacher sparkle, because that's what educators do. They have that ability and knowledge of how their students learn best. So really internalizing that lesson and those units to ensure that they are building out supports for those students to help them truly understand what they're trying to teach. So we asked the administrators in the room, do you have knowledge to help support that? Before you could see that was very low, but after Kentucky Ellen, 62% of those felt much stronger about helping support teachers in lesson and unit internalization. And then the last thing that I'll talk about very quickly is those in Kentucky LM districts, we offered a secondary science of reading course. And we did that because I have middle school and high school teachers reach out to me all of the time because Letters is a K-5 initiative. So they reach out and say, I have students who are sitting in my classroom that have issues and struggles with reading. Please help us, train us. So we feel strongly about trying to support our secondary educators as well. So we've offered a reading course specific to our middle and high school teachers, and that has went really, really well. They try to build out a strong foundation for reading skills. They make sense of complex text. There's different modules you can see there on your screen around. It's around 18 to 20 hours, and they learn some of those key principles and strategies on reading instruction to help their teachers as well. So we've had many teachers to take advantage of that and participate in that. And then we also had an on-site learning day where those participants came and worked together and worked through their learning and information and shared with each other. So a lot of things happening in the state around literacy. Of course, I have Danielle here with us who oversees grants that are going on in the state of Kentucky around literacy. So a lot of initiatives that we are trying to do to help bolster reading. Scores did improve this year. They are not where I want them to be. I want them to be much higher. I would like 100% of our students in the state of Kentucky to be reading proficiently. I think all of us want that. Parents, teachers, administrators, we want all students to be able to read proficiently. So we're going to keep working and keep grinding to ensure that we are all working together with schools and districts to ensure that happens. So I will open up the floor. I know that was kind of quick, but I will open up the floor. If you have any questions about any of the initiatives that I talked about, I would be happy to answer the questions now. All right. Oh, Dawn, I see your hand.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I'm back. I could finally see your thing. I had to exit and come back in. And this is maybe something that we need to talk about later, that maybe you could email me or whatever, but you were talking, I was looking at that TNTP secondary science of reading course that's for like middle and high school. I'm in an elementary school, but we're preschool through 12th grade. And so I've never actually heard of that. So where would I find that information to share with my school?
Sure. If you will reach out to me via email,
Okay.
I can share if we have any slots left. We offer
Okay.
that to our Kentucky LM participants, but I will absolutely be willing to share that information with you in the contact in case we have any open slots left.
Okay.
Absolutely. You're welcome. Thank you for your interest. Anybody else? Hopefully next time we come together, we'll have a quorum. Snow days and sickness will not get to us, and we will have more people. But thank you so much for participating and for being here. I'm always here. If you have questions in the meantime, please feel free to reach out to me, and we will set another meeting in spring of next year, and that will be here before we can turn around. That happens really quick. So thank you guys for participating, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.